Hi, I'm Seamless, and I'm not totally sure what day it is, but this is the 16th 30K tutorial, and this is the sound that I made. This was an attempt at Spor, specifically the Chemist Stompbox remix that Spor had done. Spor being Feed Me now, if you didn't know that. This is pretty okay. I mean, the technique that I'm using is actually inspired by the Audeca technique, which was inspired by my old Harmer resampling technique. So this is a bit of evolution here for processes, but this is what the sound originally originated as. And then here's the second step of resampling. And here's what the last step. All right, so this first one is your average bandpass saw bass. I didn't really need to use Harmer to do this, but I used it because I wanted to do some special things. Now I've done this before. Like when other bandpass basses that I made, what I would do is I would split it and do bandpassing like a patcher or something. And so I'd split it to have the bandpass, and then I'd have the low end and some high reinforcement underneath it, so that you can have your bandpass, but then it would also, you'd still have the texture of the sound, maintained. But what I'm doing here, I'm doing that basically, but what I'm doing within Harmer ahead of time. So what I'm doing is I created bandpass, and then I went and edited the harmonic protection settings so that it does its low end protection, which it does normally, but then I put in a little bit of high end protection. You kind of see it in the coloration on the higher frequencies here. As you can hear some fuzz. That's what is happening. And then I unisoned it, Reese style. I got a little bit fancy with the harmonic unison pitch changing, so that like that sort of squelchy sound that comes in. That's the result of that. I distorted it. I added some asymmetry to kind of sharpen it a little bit. That's part of what asymmetry does. If you screw around with it at like medium to ish settings, it'll make that. I am editing I set the crude bandpass as basic, and then filters moving around. I'm also editing the bandwidth. So this guy's the main filter, and this guy's the bandwidth. Nice. So then we have the first resample step. Ta-da! Okay, so this guy's doing the brunt of like the initial tonal change in the sound. I'm editing a lot of things. I'm automating a lot of things, I should say. So, now this is where the first section of like the Audeca form comes in. And what they had done is that they had used Harmer basically as a phaser envelope, more or less. Now, I've explained this in other tutorials, but what the phaser is in Harmer, it's not actually a phaser. It doesn't play the sound against itself with a changed phase to create movement in the sound. What it does is it mimics what a phaser does by being a filter that moves, and it's like basically a comb filter that constantly refreshes itself and moves, so that it sounds like what a phaser normally sounds like. But we can screw with it because it's additive and not phaser. So what I've done here is I turned the speed to 0, and I've turned it up a little bit, and I'm editing the width, which changes the width of like the columns that it creates, and this basically turns into a notch comb like morphing filter. If I turn it up really hard, you can kind of see it. Like all those holes that are being created in the sound are more or less the result of the phaser. Now I also have the unison engaged and a little bit of panning, which I ended up not using at all in the third step. However, this is not to say that it would work better with no panning at all, because what's really happening in the third step, when it only loading one sample and not do two for stereo, is that it's loading the mid without the side. It's not just loading a mono version of the sound, it's loading the mid, which means that it's actually still the same character being applied to it as a result of the panning. Because if there were no panning, that means that the sound would all be center, which means the distortion would be applied differently. Because as that result, the distortion it doesn't read both channels at once, only reads what's in both channels, that is to say, the mid. So having stereo, even if the resulting sound is not stereo, has an effect on the sound. So log again, asymmetry engaged. I'm I'm automating the pitch. I'm also automating the sharpness of the resampling and the width. Now, that's almost really there. Like that's like I said, that's the crux of like what creates the character to sound. And what this does is it makes like the regular bandpass movements from the original sound more vocal-ish. And when you do that, that means you're adding in characters to the sound that Harmor and other things can interpret as formants, which means you can mess with it later, which is what the third step. This is the formant mutation that I did with the mix almost all the way up, and the formant's actually turned down, so the whole thing is moving down. Yes. So, am I moving sharpness? Nope. I'm doing the phaser thing again. Also, again, not at the highest settings. I got the unison on as well, and it's not at 100% because if it were, it'd be a bit washy. But in the unison pitch window, you see that's actually being brought down a little bit around the spectrum. Because I didn't want it to screw around with it too much, but that's just enough to kind of still mess with it. It's being distorted again. However, it's mostly dry. Like, it's only adding a little bit of saturation because the mix is mostly dry. But the filter is coming down a little bit as well. And I'm compressing it with the internal compression. And out here, I got a little bit of EQ. Like, this sort of notch business is pretty standard in like neurofunk, Reese, drum and bass stuff. And I compressed it to kind of keep the low end in check. Especially during the choppy moments. You can see the green is where the sound gets pulled up a lot. So the more green you're seeing, the more the sound is being brought up from where it is as a result of the expansion, in this case. And the mids and highs, I did the sort of up-down style compression to keep it like the quiet parts up loud and the loud parts quiet, so it's all evened out. And then distortion on the top, like I'm not even compressing it. I'm just using the self saturation to distort the top off. And that's more or less it. Another cool thing that's in this project is that I recorded it into Edison's, but I used it on the selected channel. The way this works is the way that the selected channel works is that any channel that you select is going to also be run through the selected channel, so that it's being affected by it. So this means that I could have one Edison in the selected channel, and then any time I click on any of the channels and I say record, it'll record what I'm clicking on. So I don't need to make 4 unisons to record any of the stuff. I just have one. So it's being more efficient. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. The project file for this will be available in the description of this video. Now again, this is one of the 30K tutorial videos. This is where I'm taking sound design requests to celebrate that I have reached 30,000 subscribers. If you would like to make a request, only do so on the Facebook post that's linked in the description. It will say request here, and then it'll be a shortened Google link. Click on it, go to the Facebook page, and then make a request there. Also, like my Facebook page if you haven't yet. This is the 16th one, which means I have 14 more to go. You think? That's math. I have a lot. I'm going to do them. So this means I still have, there's still a chance that you can make a request and I'll see it and I'll do it. If you have any questions about any of this, let me know. And as usual, have a nice day. Have a nice day.